Radio. It's Tuesday evening and it's 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in southeast London, and the weather here tonight, it's overcast. It's been raining a bit on and off, and it's sort of mild. And with me, as usual, is Gregory. Gregory, how are you, and how is the weather where you are?
It's been very mild today. And
Okay.
it's overcast, but no rain.
No rain. Okay. Welcome. Welcome, listeners, to this show. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uptrushin. And every week we have a new topic for discussion. The topic tonight is cultural clash in society. Cultural clash in society. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Uptrushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Uptrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men. and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic for discussion tonight is cultural clash in society. And this is, of course, coming from what we are hearing in the news in the last few days, what's been happening in France, where there was a teenager who was stopped by the police and killed during that traffic stop, which happened about a week ago now. And then from there was lots of protests and rioting that started all over France. The incident happened in sort of a suburb of Paris, but since then the rioting and you could say the troubles have spread to the whole country. And this teenager is of immigrant background, African Arab origin, and that community feels discriminated against in many ways from economic and other reasons. So you can see the outburst that has happened. People feel it's racism, and and they felt it was, as I said, not that incident by itself, but it's been building up over time with so many years. You can say this tension that has been there. So that's how we came up to this topic tonight: cultural clash in society. So I again welcome you to ask any questions or give your comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Now, Gregory, as you know, I always like to look in the dictionary for the words in the topic. And the first word we have is cultural, or we can say culture. And so I looked that up in the dictionary, and the number of meanings they have given. The first one I found, it says, for culture that is, the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. So as I said, that's only part of the definition there, Gregory. Would you say that is, let's say, useful for our discussion, for the meaning of culture?
Well, what you read out is from the dictionary. And that being the case, the dictionary can only offer what it has collated and is very generalized. Basically, words, there are two types of meaning. The meaning that coincides with earthly conceptions, and the meanings that do not coincide with earthly conceptions. That which coincides with the earthly conception, one may refer to as the intellectual meaning, whereas the other type, that is a more intuitive meaning, which has a deeper sensing, a deeper meaning than the intellectual one. Therefore, what you yourself just read out is basically an intellectual one, which is very, very narrow.
Right. Thank you for that, Gregory. I want to explore that a bit more, but I'm thinking I just would like to read out the other meanings in the dictionary as well, and if that is corresponding with anything, with what you've just said there. So just to repeat what you've just said there. So there's the earthly conception of culture. And sorry, Gregory, could you put yourself on mute because there's a echo happening. Thank you. So yes, I said there are two. You gave this meaning of culture with sort of earthly. There's an earthly conception, or earthly, conception of it, or maybe conception may not be exactly what I want to say, but there's an earthly meaning of it, and that works on the earthly level, let's say. And then there's the intuitive level that we also have a meaning of culture there. And of course, the dictionary, as you said, is referring to the earthly conceptions and meaning. So let me continue a bit more, Gregory, for what the dictionary says, because as I said, there were 4 definitions for the meaning of culture. Just to repeat, the first one I found was the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. The second meaning it gives, the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization. So you can understand like a company culture that people associate with culture. Another one is the set of values, conventions, or social practices associated with a particular field or activity or social characteristics, societal characteristic. So again, it's connected with society there. Then the fourth one, it says integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. Trying to make sense of it myself, what that means. I'll just repeat that. The integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. So, Gregory, anything you want to say on these meanings? I know you've said a comment already on these other definitions.
The definitions you pointed out can be categorized basically as earthly conceptions which may not precisely resonate with the non-earthly conceptions when one refers to the framework of nature through which all that exists gross materially came.
Right. Can I just ask you to repeat the last sentence you said? The gross, did you say gross materially? Can you just repeat that last bit?
All that exists gross materially, they came through a channel, and that channel is that of nature.
I see, yes. Yes, so I got that now. Okay. Thinking about, you've said there's an earthly conception and there's a non-earthly conception of culture. The earthly one they're referring to in the dictionary to racial, religious, or social group, their traits or beliefs. And so these are physical things. Well, behavior may not be physical, but certain things are physical, like race, that you can see. Now, this clash that we've been referring to, Gregory, that happened in France, it's not the first time these things have happened, of course, but it's because it's in the news, and it was like a prompt for us to think about it. So, there are many questions that come about. The first thing you think, there's many things you can think about, and one thing you're wondering, okay, there's a cultural clash, which I'm equating that to be like a race clash. A different race is here, and there's somehow, it seems, they're so different that they're not able to sort of work together or live together. And I know there's another issue that people say, oh, they're also from a poor background, but let's leave that to the side. Let's put that to the side. There's also religion as well, but let's start with the race first. Obviously, different races have different culture, coming from different backgrounds, obviously. So, but you'd think, okay, you can always respect each other. You don't have to clash on that. They can live with each other's culture. You don't disrespect the other person, just like a general human being can understand that. So I'm wondering, Gregory, when you have places in countries where they have different races, one is I don't want to use the word indigenous, but one is, let's say, the majority group in that country, and then there's they call it ethnic minority living in that same country. Does it mean, Gregory, that the one that is the minority has to adapt itself to fit in with the majority group? Is that, in other words, they have to change their ways to fit in, basically?
As with all communities, social communities, social because people come together and they share their experiences, you will find that whenever there is misunderstanding, that has its roots in the lack of ability to understand the challenges of the other group or of the other person. So when you find this, it becomes very difficult for people to live side by side because of the lack of understanding of the challenges of the other group. And that has been what has precipitated many a challenge in communities. Whatever the community is, whether it's minor community or majority in the community, is immaterial. It is the policy of not making necessary efforts to know what the challenges are, but just making assumptions. And from those assumptions, which are basically highly intellectual, that means very narrow, they just hold it that way. And the structures in society, like policing or soldiering, because of the framework from which they themselves have been established, you find that they still carry that danger in perpetrating the wrong assumptions which they have imbibed in their training. So when you put all these things together, it's understandable why there will be all the problems which have been precipitated up till now.
Thank you very much for this answer, Gregory. You're pointing to the main issue being lack of understanding between the different groups. It doesn't matter which group one is majority or one is minority. This is the biggest, or say, crux of the problem, say. And it comes, both sides have to do that, understanding. Come to a lack, which means you have, when you say understanding, that let's say, so minority culture needs to learns to know the other culture, the majority culture, and the vice versa, like this. That's what you're pointing to. So it's both sides, like I say. Now, as I said, they got so many questions on this. Now, what we find, Gregory, in the Grail Message, we are told about the law of attraction of homogeneous species. So, or like attracts like, as we say. or birds of a feather flock together is another way. Um, does that mean, Gregory, based on that, if a particular group has each group has got its own, let's say, customs and practices and so on, and beliefs and whatever, so they have a homogeneity. So when we have two groups with a different type of customs and beliefs, as we are saying, then does it mean, Gregory, they should be living in a segregated way in the same town, let's say, as we are talking here, or city, or should they be able to, when I use the word mix, I mean, mixing means the sense of able to travel from, in either direction, let's say, to work with each other, whatever that involves. So should they be living there like in a separate way, segregated? It sounds very terrible when I use that word segregation, because it seems like there's no freedom. But I'm saying in the sense of thinking of homogeneity. So is there something that, because when you're homogeneous, it's the same person, same type as you. So of course you are easily able to work with such type of person. But when it's a different type, then there's not homogeneity. So, but does that mean you can't go there? So that's what I want to understand, Gregory. Can the two groups of different types live together, basically?
One needs only to take a very simple example, which example is very popular, that of football. You will find that in the so-called game of football, there are different groups there, minorities, majority, whatever you care to classify them. In the team in which you have different groups, minorities, majority, whatever, is it not one for all and all for one in order to achieve a goal? Do they now say because they are of different religion, of different background, black, white, blue, green, therefore they will not play in the same team in order to win in a game? So what is needed is that one for all and all for one. People need to live side by side. All right, as you have in the so-called football game, the defender cannot say he is superior to the goal scorer. Neither can the goal scorer say he is superior to the goalkeeper. Neither can the goalkeeper say he is superior to any other part. Each part of the society have their tasks which they need to fulfill in order to work in harmony, in order to make progress. So the reasons which have been found are only partial and unwilling to face the realities, which realities challenge them. The same thing goes to the health sector. And there are people of skills and talents from the minorities, from the majorities, who are in the health sector in such a way as they are able to contribute to the overall populace. So these things have to be examined very carefully, and you'll find that the limitations have always been the inability, or should one call it inability, or the reluctance to understand the challenges of the others. And in that case, because they lack that understanding, the tendency is always to demonize the other, even if the other party is striving to ennoble himself just as they themselves are striving to ennoble themselves. So all this talk about segregation, people, different beliefs, well, don't they breathe the same air? Don't they eat the same type of food? Don't they all take tea or take coffee? Don't they take milk? Do they have to get their milk from their village or from their farms and things like that? So actually, there is no excuse why people cannot live side by side if they are determined to understand the challenges other people face. Only through such efforts to understand the challenges of others, only through that will they come to an understanding how they need to adjust their inner attitude in order to live side by side.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for your answer there. And I can hear there the big issue, if I can put that there, is having a common goal, you know, which is a higher goal, let's say, than the, as you mentioned, like the external sort of almost superficial, what can I say, barriers or, so, you know, I don't quite know how to put it, but something which is lowly, and you make that the point of difference and as a barrier to stop you from doing things together. When there's a higher goal, just like you mentioned, playing in a football team, it doesn't matter your race or religion or belief. The goal is to win the game in football. So it's all about ability, not about these other issues that we try to put up as a barrier, like I said. And then, you know, you work with that goal. And just like you mentioned, the other one was the hospital, where you have different people of different backgrounds, you know, all working to help the whoever is the patient to get treated properly, you know. So it doesn't matter who is the one doing what. So thank you for that. Now, I was thinking, somehow, Gregory, well, there's so many points in my mind. So this story that we are talking about is happening in France, and it's called the French Republic. They call themselves the French Republic, and they have 3 values, which is, I'm saying top of my head, but I think it's freedom, equality, and I've forgotten the third one in my head right now, but I will check it in a second. So this is what the goals are of France, you know. They don't talk about race. You know, you said the goal. So if that is what they believe in, this is how they should be able to resolve their issue. They formed France, they call it Republic. They believe in freedom, they believe in equality. That's how they're supposed to treat each other. So now, Gregory, if a particular group, now we'll go into the little bit about, we know that this is, let's say, immigrant community where the teenager came from, the Arab African community, and they are of, let's say, okay, yes, they're in a minority, but also they seem to come from a little bit poorer sort of resources, and they have less opportunity. That's what it is said, and they feel that they're being discriminated and not being allowed, you know, the chance to be as successful, let's say, as the other community there, you know. So my question on that, Gregory, is again, is it meant to be the one who's got the more advantage supposed to support the one with the less advantage, or is it the one with the disadvantage has to stand on its own 2 legs and come up by itself?
are you referring to the migrant community
Yes.
or the migrant community, not yet part of the community of a country, but they are migrating, so things have not been yet regularized. The question which each person must ask themselves, whenever you have someone living from one community to the other, there must be some form of agreement which has been fully well established. However, you will find that most of the time, these agreements are likely to be shattered because the new community that the migrants are arriving at, they will have to adjust some values to be able to take them in. And fair is fair. The first instinct for many is to say no. Because when these migrants come in, it will take time for them to adjust completely. But it doesn't end there. Now consider that there are other people who need to migrate to the countries where these migrants have left. How do the people in that country where the migrants have left, how do they respond to new people coming in to share their resources? So basically, it's a matter of resources that have to be shared and things that have to be shaken up to be able to accommodate the migrants. Most of the time, these migrants have to pay so much money to be able to live where they themselves have been all this while. Then many must ask themselves, the funds which are utilized in bribing people along the line, could not those funds be used for self-improvement in one way or the other? So these are questions which have to be considered very carefully. Not that, okay, you just leave the country today, you want to go to another country, and then you have to be accepted. Just as someone cannot leave one other country and come to your home, and then you have to accept the person and say, because it's one for all and all for one. You know, the people must be sensitive to what these challenges are, just as the migrants want people to accept them because they are coming from places where they have difficult challenges. They themselves must try to understand the challenges of those who already live in a particular place. So it is this lack of understanding that causes all this, what you yourself refer to as clashes. Because you will find it is the resources. How do we manage the resources which we have? If it is possible for the new country to, in a way, to be able to take them in and manage the resources so that it will not collapse. Of course, there are some who have done that. But it should not be assumed that they, the migrants, can dictate the country they wish to go in and force those authorities whose task is to protect the lives and livelihoods of the new country which they wish to be in, to force the authorities to just take them in without careful evaluation because there has been agreement. Things don't work that way because nobody leaves one home and goes to another home and expects in getting to that new home to be assimilated immediately.
Thank you very much for this answer, Gregory, and the picture you've painted by explaining this. You could say the scenario of what people are going through. There are two communities there, and as you said, the understanding is very, very of utmost importance to see what's going on here. One is moving from another place to this new place, which means, of course, you have to adapt. And the other ones have to adapt. They were already there. They need to adapt to the new people coming in. So obviously, there will be some, you could say, changes required. And adapt. And that's what we mean by adapting. So thank you for that. I want to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And if you would like to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is cultural clash in society. Cultural clash in society. And that's, I'm sure those of us who are listening to the current news, that's following from what's happened in the killing of the immigrant teenager in France, and the riots that have followed on after that for days. And I think it's a week ago now. So if you wish to join in the discussion or have any and want to put forward any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Space live stream. That's to listen to the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day, also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1. Space Grail Message. And then space again with the topic of the show tonight, which is cultural clash in society. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we're broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM / Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, as I said, the topic tonight is cultural clash in society. And normally I try to go through the dictionary, the meaning of each of the words in the dictionary in one go, but I didn't do that. And I will just go through that now. So we've already discussed culture or cultural. But we mentioned part of it, which is the earthly, you could say, definition. So, and there's a non-earthly one as well. but we'll leave that for the moment. I'm going to continue with the other rest of the words in the topic, which are, so the topic is cultural clash in society. So the word clash, I looked that up in the dictionary, and it says a violent confrontation. I think that's very well, very, how can I say, clear to follow. Gregory, anything else you would like to add to this meaning?
In a heated debate, like you yourself, as you may find in so-called politics, or in school debates, or in general debates, there is a clash there, but there's no confrontation.
Right. So you're saying
sorry, there's no violence. I mean violence.
Right, there's no violence. So you can have a clash, but it doesn't have to be violent.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, there was a second definition, but it was so different from the first one. I will say that as well in the dictionary. It says, for the meaning of clash, a mismatch of colors. So you can see, Gregory, that one has nothing to do with confrontation as such. Well, not at least in debate.
Well, to some extent, one may, use these things, but they only give parts of the whole. They do not touch on the essence.
Right. So what we'll do, we'll continue, and where it is necessary, we'll add further points. So the next word I looked up there, Gregory, was society. And it's given us two meanings there in the dictionary. First one, it says the aggregate of people living together in more or less ordered community. So that's one meaning there. What do you say to that meaning, Gregory?
That is usable in the form in which it is, because there is an aggregate of people who live within the same neighborhood. So it's okay.
That's good. And the other one, I think, is not really necessary for our discussion, but it says an organization or club formed for a particular purpose or activity. So, and the example they gave was Royal Society for the Protection of Birds. So I don't think that's really required for our definition that we are talking about society. So I think I will just leave that. Now, we've talked a lot now, Gregory, about misunderstanding or not lack of understanding and goal. That, the lack of understanding, which made the two sort of groups, if we say there are two groups that need to appreciate each other. And then the other one was the goal, having the goal, a common goal, where people can be together, work together. Now, I know, Gregory, you're talking here in this particular case about migrants moving into this country. I mean, they didn't arrive yesterday. They've been there for, well, I don't know exactly, but let's say 50 years. But the children have been born, and they're like teenagers. This is the group that we are focusing on at the moment, which have been rioting. And I know things are stabilizing a little bit, let's say, but the tension is obviously still there. The anger hasn't gone. I think the main thing the authorities have been doing is trying to just quell the violence, not actually looking at ways to sort of move forward and how to actually, you could say, come together and resolve these issues and problems between the two communities, let's say. I don't think they even have a clue what they need to do. Otherwise, they would have dealt with it a long time back if they were serious about these issues. So I'm thinking, just trying to see how can, when this, thinking of this example here, Gregory, like you said about the migrants coming, right? They need to adapt into the existing culture that is there, and the existing culture need to recognize, or when I say recognize, come to see what the new people are, come to relate with those people as well. So let me ask how that they can proceed, Gregory. Let's start from in today's situation, with the clashes. How can they move forward and come to some really? I mean, I use the word solution, but it's not. What I mean is to come have real peace and harmony. That means, let me say like that. How can they move forward?
May I ask you to reframe the question? Is it the case of France or the case of migrants in? I'm not quite sure which.
Yes, I'm talking really about France, because that's what the news story is about. So I do have some other points to make, but this is the one I want to talk about now. This story about France with the clash is between the French, could say, people, original people, if I can say like this, and then the migrants. And by the way, we are talking, the actual clash is happening with the children of the migrants, not their, so they're born there already. But in any case, they are different somehow, and they're not able to come together. So how can they come to resolve these differences?
Fair is fair. One must face the facts. The person who lost his life is a French citizen. The parents are French citizens. So they cannot be referred to as migrants.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. Sorry to come in, Gregory. Yes, they're called immigrant when they came, but you're right. They're not migrant now. They're definitely citizens. So yes, but so maybe we should be more careful with our words. Because we said there are two groups. One is like from African Arab origin, and yes, they are French, like you say. And then there's the French. I use the word original in quotes because they were there before. So that's why I'm saying. So this is the situation we're dealing with. Like, so yes, go ahead, Georgie. How can we bring them together?
The question of bringing people together has always been there. It doesn't mean now, because you now have some whose origin or original origin is different from the current place of abode. Even within families, there are quarrels, there are misunderstandings, and there are fights. The problem has always been that not enough effort has been put in place to understand the challenges of others. Like the example which was given in the case of football, when you know in the case of football, which all of them love, that in that small team, that microcosm, it is one for all and all for one, then you find in that case they work together. Or have you seen in a football game where a team is fighting itself to allow the others to score? That is very rare. Societies evolve. There is a need to refine. This refinement is not refinement of the buildings, but refinement of the people who make up society. That refinement, which is basically rejecting old concepts and imbibing new ones for the benefit of all rather than for the benefit of one. Some take in these refinements faster than others. And in that case, you find that those who see a more global picture and strive after it are able to adjust as compared to those who do not. Those who do not move that fast can be members of the military, can be members of the police force, can be the ordinary members of the society. And of course, they will apply their limited understanding to the way they care to do their things. So you may have that you have a group within the society who still hold some of these views, and they refuse to give up these views as quickly as possible for the good of all. When you observe carefully, all this has to do with shared resources. It has never been reported where you have people that have skills in music, that has so-called a lot of money, fighting themselves for the sake of fighting. In fact, when they all have so much money, they protect themselves. They know they are brothers and sisters. But when they have very little, that's when they know that this is from a different tribe. So one should have an open attitude in trying to understand the challenges of the other. In that case, very soon it becomes very clear for a society to make progress. That fundamental principle of one for all and all for one must hold. Laws may be helpful, but they are not sufficient to ensure that there is fairness, because people are at different stages of maturity. Like it's been said, the person who pulled the trigger, would he have pulled the trigger if that boy were his son, were his relative, were living in the same house with him? So this misunderstanding, which many carry within themselves, that has always been the cause of the problem, in not trying to understand the challenges of the others. And it should not be made one-sided, because the so-called minorities who are quick to vocalize many things in their own way sort of exhibit this lack of understanding when they deal with others. But because now they are on the receiving end, they need sympathy. That is understandable. But at the same time, any society that wishes to make progress, it has to make use of the skills of all, not the skills of a few. For if you have in the case of the medicine, where people are needed to work, or even the so-called taxi driver, all these, they work side by side. One cannot say, oh, he's only a driver, it doesn't matter. Or, oh, he's only a doctor, it doesn't matter. Oh, he's only a musician, it doesn't matter. All these are the people that form the society, that make the society tick, that make the society vibrant. It is not when people go into their own shell and do not strive to understand how they can work with others. That is not how a society is made. Because a society contains people who have diverse skills. It is the management of these diverse skills that has brought government. Governments are not perfect, but they should strive to improve again and again until they reach that state where they are confident that many of the problems would have been solved.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this, your words, and again, bringing the focus on, all for one and one for all, because when you think of each other as a brother and sister, like a family, as you said, they have quarrels in a family, then you'll think twice before you shoot and take action which you will regret. So think of your fellow human being as a brother or sister, then you definitely wouldn't do that. So thank you for that, making that point. And the talents, you mentioned about the talents that people have, and you're using the talents to build a society. So rather than looking for these, you could say, I don't know exactly what to use, points of argument and points of weaknesses and things like that, where you will not achieve anything, just division and cause trouble. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, there's something you were mentioning when we were looking at the meaning of culture. There's the earthly meaning, which we said is intellectual meaning, and then there's a non-earthly meaning. So could you please tell us more about that? What is the non-earthly meaning of culture or cultural?
The non-earthly meaning is the intuitive meaning of culture, which is basically the strivings, the spiritual strivings of the people, of the communities, which spiritual striving manifests as the virtues. That, strictly speaking, is where culture comes in. In the process of this striving, they come to many a realization of how to improve themselves, not only materially, but also psychically and also spiritually. For it is the basic improvement in spirit. That is why the human personality has been sunk into the world of matter in order to experience, in order to cultivate. That word culture comes from cultivation. So, once that which is spiritual has been cultivated, that which has been referred to as, say, faithfulness, as grace, modesty, and diligence, all these are common to different societies. It is how they exhibit this that vary from one society to the other, and the degree to which they care to put this into place. So that word culture, which comes from cultivation, like you have a Greek culture, which is basically soil cultivation. But in this particular instance, when it's referred to human personalities, it is that which lies deep within them, the talent which is within the human personality that needs to be cultivated, Therein lies the culture, which culture should bring people together, because these are different peoples. But in one for all and all for one, before long, they themselves will realize that which seems to be so challenging.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this meaning and explanation of this word, the spiritual meaning, you can say, for the word culture or cultivate, about the virtues, developing our virtues. And again, the big one, all for one and one for all, which really is so easy to understand, but somehow we don't seem to, either we forget it or we are so how can I say, absorbed by our earthly desires and ideas that we are somehow cannot focus on anything higher than that, just only the earthly things we want. So even the harmony somehow disappears in that. It's just a word rather than really understanding what it means. So thank you for that. I wanted to let the listeners know you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of this show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Uprushing. And if you wish to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is cultural clash in society. Cultural clash in society. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube the next day. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is cultural clash in society. And thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, there's another bit of news happening as we speak, actually. I think it came in the news today or even yesterday, I'm not quite sure. And that's in Israel, or Palestine, I should say, where the Israeli army has launched an operation in the Palestinian city of Jenin. And there have been a number of deaths and quite a few hundred wounded. Well, we know these clashes have been happening for, well, they say even 100 years. Um, and what we know there, Gregory, is that there are people that definitely have different belief and views, and they want the same land where they live, even if one has been, you could say, imported there. So anyway, and they said they tried in the past to settle their differences, but it doesn't go anywhere. They don't even talk anymore, but they keep attacking each other here at different moments, you can say. And but there's, you could say, Gregory, there, I don't even know for sure if the people want to live in harmony. It's almost like one person wants to dominate the other one, or just have it the place for themselves alone, and just remove the other one or kill the other one side. So it looks like an impossible sort of situation. And they say that people, who are born, they have not known anything, really any peace. It's always been this way, that are, let's say, in the current generation. If you say generation, it's a 25-year-old years. So now, when we have this type of situation, Gregory, is there any hope for peace there?
There is hope for peace anywhere as long as fear is not allowed to be the ruler. Many of these communities you yourself mentioned, they live in fear. Once each community strives to understand the challenges of the other community, subsequently, fear will vanish. And then they may be able to live in peace. It must be recalled that even in the time of the Pharaoh, when the people of Israel lived in Egypt, it was fear that Pharaoh had, fear of the abilities of those who he himself was subjecting to such terrible degradation, fear of the abilities of others, fear of revenge. Therefore, the communities which are involved in these types must first and foremost strive to eliminate fear. Then there will be common ground. And it is very sad because you find that both communities always talk of Jerusalem. But the Jerusalem which is referred to is the heavenly Jerusalem, where all those who have matured spiritually live, not the dusty place you have here on earth. Moreover, it should be understood that in one earth life, one may live in one community and in another earth life may live in the so-called opposite community to understand the challenges, the anger of the others. So, from a high point of view, when viewed very correctly, it doesn't make any sense. For both communities have, to a large extent, the commandments which commandment makes it very clear that they should walk in harmony. That is why the 10 commandments were given. As at the time the people of Israel left Egypt. For if they kept those commandments, then they will be able to live in peace. But how have the human personalities kept these commandments? That the human personalities, those who have incarnated in one community or the other, how have they claimed that they believe in the Almighty? Of course, they are free to say they believe in the Almighty. But are they convinced of the Almighty? That is a different thing. Because conviction only comes through rigorous weighing and examining. Have they themselves weighed and examined what has been presented to them in their beliefs? Then, gradually, fear will recede and they will be free to human personalities. For in the final analysis, the human spirit wishes to improve itself, to go back home to the heavenly Jerusalem, not the dusty earthly place which many fight over.
Thank you very much for this answer there, Gregory. Now, I just remembered you mentioned earlier about culture is about cultivating, and obviously we have different cultures or different races and so on, peoples. But when you were talking about cultivating, it was about the spiritual values or noble, virtues. Virtues you were talking about, which has got, I would say, nothing to do with, race. Let's say that, right? You can be noble and have virtues, whichever race you are. So what I was wondering, Gregory, now of course the race is the physical manifestation, you can say, of the human being. But I was wondering, Gregory, is there any, how can I say, any meaning or any purpose in the different races in terms of, let's say, a bit, like we talked about the virtues, right? Which I thought is universal amongst all humans, so it doesn't matter what race you are. So is there any differences, let's say, in the races in any way, in their with reference to culture, and let's say ability, character, and yeah, is there any such differences there?
Are you referring to differences spiritually or differences in the earthly?
In the earthly. In the earthly.
In the earthly, they are of different colors, they are of different languages, but these are peculiar to the different groupings which you call nations. However, it is that which is spiritual, which many long and strive after, the ennoblement of themselves, the ennoblement of their spirit, in such a way to allow it to mature in the sense to allow that which has been sown in it to come to fruition, to be able to walk with others. That is the commonality. The differences is only the result of the maturity which they currently have. That one is in one race today, being black or white or green or blue, whatever color we wish to call it, does not mean he or she may not be in another race, in another earth life. But it is necessary to experience these different races in order to help to mature the human personality. The human personality is of spirit, and that which is spiritual is unique.
Thank you very much for this answer there, Gregory. And you mentioned maturity now there, and you mentioned it earlier, and you mentioned about, well, you didn't say directly reincarnation, but you referred to it in your, people are, let's say, it's not one earth life that we go through a number, and you can change your, you could say, race when you reincarnate to another race and have different experiences with that for many reasons. Now, does that mean, Gregory, that some races are superior to another? I know this is a very controversial way to say something like this, but just want to understand that. Is there something like that?
In the understanding of the laws of nature through which the human personality came into existence, in the understanding of the laws of creation through which the human spirit came into existence, the degree of understanding places the individual at a certain level, because in that case, that individual must have cultivated the virtues. And you will find that the degree of cultivation varies from one person to the other. Just as you have varying degrees of maturity in individuals in every country, so also you have that varying degrees of maturity in nations, in races.
Thank you for that answer there, Gregory. So there's not like somebody superior, it's just there's a variation. And and I'm just thinking, some people try to claim, oh, we are superior. And even we remember, the Jews, they're claiming, oh, we are the chosen people. They said things like this, as if they are superior. So when some people claim like that, is that, how can I say, their own pride and ego there? Or is it really that they are somehow superior or something like that?
Well, very simply, by their activities, let them show through their maturity, through their understanding of the challenges of others, that they indeed are superior. For that personality who is superior will take as sacrosanct the lives of others. That possibility was granted to them in the time when Moses led the people of Israel out of Egypt. In that scenario, through Moses, the 10 Commandments was granted to them because they had the capability of understanding that those 10 commandments are right. Those 10 commandments are very familiar. Many know about the 10 commandments. But ask yourself, how have these groups kept the 10 commandments? How have they subsequently loved their neighbor as themselves? Loving your neighbor as yourself is making the effort to understand the challenges that your neighbor has. Therefore, by their activities, people reveal their superiority. Else, they reveal their inferiority.
Thank you very much for that answer there, Gregory. It makes you think, oh yes, people can boast, oh we are this or we are that, like as if they're superior. And then the reality is, yes, actually, how do you really stand? And yes, you might have been blessed with the 10 Commandments, but are you actually following that or doing your own thing? So thank you for that.
Well, to add a bit to it, it is not those who most of the time received it first. It is not those one is referring to. Because, like has been stressed, a human personality in one earth life could incarnate here among a certain group in order to experience, and in another earth life, in another place, sometimes the opposite, in order to experience. And in the maturing, it comes to a better understanding of what these challenges are, a better understanding of it spiritually rather than materially. So one should not look upon individuals of a group and pass comment as such, because that person who passes the comment might have been in that group in one earth life, might have been in another group in another earth life. So motion, like has always been stressed, is a law in creation. Through motion, the laws of creation manifest themselves. And in that motion, that which the human spirit needs for its maturity, through its volition, it is directed to that place where it needs to experience. How it then responds to the challenges is left to it alone. For in the final analysis, each personality must account for the opportunities granted to them in experiencing in different areas of this earth. The challenge will then be, how have they made use of these opportunities? Have they made use of these opportunities in the support of their neighbor or in the decimation of their neighbor? That is left to the individual, for therein lies the judgment, which is in accordance with the laws of creation.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this explanation again. Another item of news, Gregory, well, they've been ongoing for some time in UK at least. It is the government has had this campaign to stop. They say, well, they use the word illegal, but we know it's not illegal. To stop immigrants and slash refugees entering the UK on boats from France, with the help of they're saying through criminal gangs, and they want to they have this policy where they want to deport them to Rwanda and let them be assessed over there, and if they succeed in their to pass the assessment, they stay in Rwanda, not even come back to UK. So anyway, that's what their policy has been. They want to put the government in UK, and they've been using this popular slogan, "Stop the boats," and then and this is what they think that people want here in UK, and they think this is the right way to solve their problem. This problem. However, there's a very the way they have been treating these people is like making them look like I don't even know what word to say, inhuman in the how they're treating, describing them, and you can just say like hateful things as if they're not human, like I said. And at the end of the day, they're not succeeding anyway, because we see it is just, you can say they're putting sticky plaster and not really dealing with the cause of the problem, if I can use that word problem, because which is clearly an international issue, not a national issue. This is what they think they can resolve it this way. So my question on that, Gregory, is well, is that the right way to deal with such people? Because they use, as I said, they label them illegal, and they're supposed to be, they think of them as maybe coming illegally through being aiming to really looking for economic migration rather than as refugee. That's what they say. But we know, as I said, the facts are that when they assess them, up till now, they say over 70%, even 80% are considered to be genuine. So, as I say, so I don't know what exactly the government is up to in these issues, but they seem to want to reduce their number anyway. Now, the question I want to ask here, Gregory, is with this problem, is that the solution to send them to Rwanda? Is that how they should deal with these sort of problems?
The right solution in any challenge is a solution which resonates within the laws of nature and is of benefit to all who are involved. How these are interpreted intellectually varies depending on the maturity of the laws or on the immaturity of the laws which nations have put in place. So each nation consists of people. The laws they have put in place to deal with these particular challenges, these laws, they should examine it whether it is in accord with the laws of creation, the laws of nature, through which they themselves came into existence. If it is and is of benefit to the nation and also of benefit to the so-called migrants, then it is the right thing to do. If it is not, then it is not the right thing to do.
Thank you for this answer there, Gregory. Because obviously, as you say, each person is, if you look at it, you can't classify everybody having the same motive and the same, let's say, genuine cause for what they're doing. I'm talking about the migrants or immigrants or refugees, because we don't know what they are until they sort of arrive. So you are saying each one need to be treated in a way individually, accordingly, not just a general one one solution for all the people. So yeah, and it has to be done with justice, as you say, not everybody categorized as one group. Now, yeah, before I continue, I just want to let the listeners know this is Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of this show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrushin. And if you're interested to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is cultural clash in society. Cultural clash in society. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1. Space Grail Message. Space the topic of the show, which tonight is cultural clash in society. And of course, you can listen to the previous recordings of our show also on YouTube. Thirdly, you can listen on Zeno. That's ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, we've been talking about the news, current news, and how there are clashes going on there. And then in my research, I checked, you could say, what's been happening with humanity over time, and you could say history. Now, this is somebody else did this research, but I looked at what they said, and they said the early human beings were pagans. That's how they described them. And in those pagans, they wanted to live in harmony with nature. And that's how the society was based, you know. Then, later, there was a feudal society where there was like a king, or you could say a tribal chief, and everybody listened or followed. Well, the king decided what was allowed or not allowed, and that's how the people accepted this, and that's how they accepted it and they followed that. And even the king was so powerful in this way that they owned the land. The king or the chief owned the land. You know, all the decisions were made somehow like that, and even he could decide who somebody would marry. So this is very powerful. So this seems quite a different from the first sort of human or early humans. These are all early humans actually, but somehow the transformation, the changes happen this way. And to continue, and then came like religion or belief, where you could say a church was like a dominant force, and the people bowed to their authority. They said this is allowed or this is not allowed. So it was led by religion, you can say, belief, like that. And then they say, as I said, I don't know exactly, I'm not looking at the timing of these things, but I'm just following what was said in here. Then they said there was an age of enlightenment where science came to be accepted as the authority. So you can see, Gregory, there's a common theme of authority here. There was first nature as the authority, then there's feudal leader, king, then there came the church or religion became the authority, people bow to that, and then came this science, which became the authority, and then there's continuing from that age of enlightenment, then came reason, where they combined science and they say liberalism, liberalism, can't say it properly, let's say freedom. And which they use another word there, pragmatism, which is the practical, where there's freedom and there's a cognition of knowledge, but applied, you can say, they said, well, it's the application of knowledge, you can say, and with freedom, using freedom as well. And they say applying it in social and political life, ethical way in social and political life. So I know I'm jumping all this time, and now all of these are, you could say, evolution of the human being in their, you could say, I don't know, intelligence and in their development, basically. So now, there was a comment made that there are people who are doers, and then there are people who are knowers. So people who just do something, and the others who do know things. But it seems that the doers don't know things, and the knowers don't know how to do. And what they said we need is people who know, who are knowing doers. In other words, they know and they do, rather than only doing or they're only knowing. So this, what they said, is supposed to be you could say, the modern human being. And that combines your individual freedom, which is working together, with coming together and working as a society. That's what they said. I must say, I don't know if people are following me, what I'm saying, but this is like a history of the human beings, how they have evolved. And there was an interesting, you could say, discussion in this, that we are all individual as human beings, and yet we want to work. Somehow there's a sensing that we need to work as a society as well. So we can have our individual freedom, and then we must have some common ground to work in. So, and they say the basis of making this work is that there has to be a knowing and doing. So what we need is knowing doers. This is how they put it in this, you could say, video that I watched. Now, Gregory, what I want to ask is, in this context of, you could say, cultivating and living in a society in harmony, is it meant to be this type of development for the human being, like over thousands of years that we evolve into, you could say, a what can I say, a human being that is mature, let me say like that. So do we have to go through this sort of not a, I don't want to say the word perfect, but somehow we have to go through these stages as a human being to become a true, a genuine, I don't know how to put it, a genuine human being or a proper human being? You're still on mute, Gregory.
In the first instance, the observations which you yourself read out, these observations, most of them are self-contradictory because there is the talk of science. Science only came into prominence maybe about 300-400 years ago, and albeit very gradually. There you have in Egypt the pyramids. Where are the pyramids which others have built with science nowadays? None. Go to the Incas and see the sort of civilizations they built. They have had such civilizations maybe over centuries. Not to talk of the case of Atlantis, where these were thousands of years ago. Science was not known as such, although there was observation of nature and using the forces of nature in their observations intuitively to fashion tools. Therefore, that which you yourself just read out are only a collection of distorted facts, which facts are now being put as a basis upon which things must move on. What has been left out, basically, are the laws of nature, which again and again are ignored. For the laws of nature transcends not only life here on earth, but also transcends to life in the beyond. In having a thorough and precise knowledge on the incarnation of the human personality in order to learn from a community, mature, and then in subsequent death, where the soul, the core of which is of spirit that directs it, where the soul goes, these are knowledge which should be cultivated through experience, through living. Science, like you mentioned, is only basically the effects of forces, which forces are the forces of nature, which forces have come into existence through nature. And since the body of man that it uses to experience is of gross material, the need is there also for man to know. After all, that which is referred to as medicine, or so-called modern medicine, only came in not too long ago, but for thousands of years, man has been able to survive and serve and propagate to the present century. So, those who made such compilations, such as you just read out, have not taken the key thing, or has not taken the framework into consideration. They have only observed very superficially the final effects of the manifestations, or the gross material manifestations, and they have drawn conclusions. Like has been discussed on many occasions, there are these things which are perceptible to the five senses. After all, the five senses are referring to taking impression, external impression, and send it to the brain. These external impressions go to the intellect, and from the intellect you have your thoughts. So it is possible to weigh and examine things gross materially. It is also possible to reason, which is the seat of the intellect. But there is another, that which connects to the inner core of man, which is man's intuition. That has not been considered in many of these writings, which are abound most of the time, for the intuition is left out, and therefore it is not consistent with life in nature. For the human spirit is able to experience not only physically, but also in their thoughts and also using their intuitions. As long as one of these three is left out, then you now have a patchwork which is filled with inconsistencies. For then, when it sees many a thing, is unable to say much. It is not man that invented nature. It is not man that invented the tree. It's not man that invented the mountains. Man only found these things which already have been here before he himself incarnated. Therefore, there must have been an order that made it possible for here, what we have here on earth. There are others who, unseen by us, who maintain that order, who walk in nature to keep the order in the purification of the air we breathe in, in the alignment of the earth. All these things, there are beings that are responsible. But for those who wish to know of these beings, they must come down from their own precarious height, which they assume to be superior to others, and learn in humility that before the human personality incarnated on earth, the earth was being prepared, and they were beings that were responsible. It is these beings that the early human personalities were able to perceive very clearly, and they walked with these beings. But what we have nowadays is that these beings are called different names. Derogatory names are mentioned. And they say, oh, the initial, those who came first were uncivilized. But that is not the case, because they were very intuitive in their perceptions. And in their intuition, they were able to interact with those who were responsible for the maintenance of air, of fire, of the wind, and even of the rivers. They perceive of their presence, depending on how they stood, depending on their blood radiation. And in this perception and working in harmony with these beings, they were able to have that close association in order to take that which is necessary for the maintenance of their bodies, of their society. So, most of the writings you find nowadays that fail to acknowledge that everything is well ordered, and also that there were beings who were responsible for this ordering in accordance with the laws of nature, which laws of nature are the will of the Almighty that made this possible. These things are so clear. For help, many a person might make the effort to examine the work in the light of truth, which work explains what light is, and again what truth is, and presents a framework upon which all that exists can be examined. In that case, many a doubt, many a fear will vanish. So, all that has been written that lacks objectivity, because the intuition of man is taken out, and also the work of those beings which are referred to as elementals are not considered, that makes it almost impossible to take these writings seriously.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for your explanation and, words to point us in the right direction, to go back to, you could say, using our abilities of the intuition, which we have lost a long time ago, and now suffering the, you could say, ill effects and the consequences of over, you could say, thousands of years. I'm wondering, I know we already asked about hope, and we know that there's always hope, but can we recover? Because as you say, we have strayed so far from how we are meant to be. Our abilities, we're not using the intuition. So, in fact, we don't have much time to discuss this. So I don't know, Gregory, is there some words you can give us to sort of reset us direction, to put us on the right direction, you can say?
You yourself already stressed the need to use one's intuition as a guide. There is very little one can do other than to stress that the human personality must use its intuition as a guide. Thereafter, all that it needs will be added onto it.
Thank you so much. Dear listeners, we've come to the end of the show tonight. The topic was cultural clash in society. So hope you enjoyed the discussion. And as usual, I like to read from the Grail Message, the foreword of the Grail Message, which is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God, Abdushin. Dear listeners, if you are interested to know more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing them a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same from me, listeners. We'll be back as usual next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time as usual, with another topic. I too wish you a great week. God bless. Good night.